Welcome. Today we'll be focusing on attention and how to focus better. We call this attentional absorption because the idea is to be as fully absorbed and comfortably absorbed and enjoyably absorbed in every moment that we can. Whether that means being fully and comfortably absorbed in work, being enthusiastic about what you're doing without distractions, either from the outside or inside, when you're engaged in some relationship with friends or lovers, to be fully present with them as possible without reacting uncomfortably to that, and basically to be able to enjoy your life and your quality of life as much as possible by being as fully present as possible and not being distracted by uncomfortable thoughts or feelings. We'll talk more about that later, but for now, let's actually begin with a skills exercise to be as fully present in everything we do as possible. Sitting as comfortably as you can with your eyes really wide open, because we're not trying to dissociate from where we are, but rather be fully present in what we're doing. So with your eyes open, look downward and focus on one area in front of you. And just focus on the colors, the shapes, the patterns of what you see. Just that one area. You don't have to judge it or label it or react to it in any way. Just be with it. In the same way, pay attention to the sounds around you. Notice all the different sounds around you. If you've been active duty military, perhaps you have tinnitus and you may be noticing the sounds inside of you as well. That's fine. Notice all the sounds that you can hear. And then select one sound to absorb yourself in. And notice every texture of that sound. Now notice your body. You may notice different sensations, some uncomfortable, some comfortable, some neutral. Just be aware of what body sensations you are aware of. And then bring your attention to the feeling of your feet on the floor. Notice every sensation of your feet on the floor. You don't have to change it, you don't have to press or lift or shift. Instead, just be aware of the sensation as it is. The same with the weight of your legs, the warmth of your legs, the feeling of your pants on your legs. Simple sensation. You don't have to judge it or label it or react to it in any way at all. It's enough just to be aware of the sensation as it is. Noticing your chest and back, the way it expands and releases automatically, without any effort to do so. In fact, notice how your back against the chair changes with the breath. And of course, you can be aware of the air flowing into and out of your nose and throat. There are many sensations that you can pay attention to, but for now, just pay attention to these simple, comfortable sensations or neutral sensations. Returning once again to what you see. If you notice that you're creating images in your mind, picturing things, remembering visual images, imagining having an interaction with somebody or something, let those images go. You don't need to create any images at all. Instead, just notice the image right here in front of you. Lock yourself into that image. Some people find it's helpful to feel as if you're breathing in what you see, letting what you see fill you with the inhale until your mind is totally filled with what you see, and then breathing yourself out to what you see. So all there is what you see, breathing that in and breathing that out. And now do the same thing with what you hear. Lock onto one sound. Feel as if you're breathing that in, letting that sound fill you. Hi. We're going to be continuing to talk about the role of attention, because especially with issues like post-traumatic stress disorder, pain, sleep disorders, the one thing they all have in common is that our attention is rarely here in the moment. But what is attention? Well, really, attention is whatever we're paying attention to. It's enhanced processing. Attention is enhanced processing. What does this mean? Whatever you pay attention to, you're going to enhance that. If you're not paying attention to something, it's just doing whatever it's doing on its own. If there's some sound around you, some buzzing off in the distance, usually you don't pay attention to it. But if you pay attention to something now, you'll start hearing more aspects of it. If you look at something, you'll start noticing more details of it. The longer you pay attention to it, the more details you'll notice. The bigger that becomes in your consciousness, and the more you process it and deal with it, and the more it becomes a part of your life. Why is this important? Because if you're paying attention to something that's distressing to you, then you enhance that. Now that's sometimes very important. If it's an emergency situation, you better pay attention to it. You better notice all the aspects of it that are important to you, and you can better deal with it. If you're worried about something, you'll enhance that worry. A second important principle is that we enhance what we attend to. Our body and brain gear up to support what we attend to. So for example, if we're paying attention to worry, then we'll process that more. Our body and brain will gear up to have a stress reaction to it, so we'll have more adrenaline, more tension, more focus on that. We enhance it, it becomes the whole of our consciousness for a while. While we're worried about something, that's pretty much all we're going to be thinking of. And we become somewhat agitated, adrenalized to deal with it. For the short term, that's fine. But chronically, that's not so good, as we talked about before, in terms of stress reactions. A third principle is pay attention to something if you can improve the situation. Otherwise, it's better to switch your attention to something else. Let's take an example. Again, if you wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and you're worried about something, if you continue to pay attention to it, you'll enhance it. You'll think about all sorts of things to do with that worry, all sorts of associations. Your body and brain will gear up to support that. You'll enhance that worry. You will become more awake, more adrenalized, right? More distressed possibly. If you can solve that problem at that moment or do something to help you with that problem, by all means you should do it. Perhaps you need to get up and write a note. You may need to get up and send an email or do whatever it takes. If you're paying attention to pain at 3 o'clock in the morning and you can shift your position a little bit or stretch a little bit and that takes care of the pain or reduces it, great. If you need to take some medication, fine, you've acted on it in an appropriate way. Where this is not so useful is if you wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and you have the same kind of intrusive thought or feeling that you've had a million times before, and there's nothing you can do. If you continue to pay attention to it, you're going to get more aroused, more agitated, more distressed, and it's not of any benefit at all. In fact, it's harmful. It's better to shift your attention, to say to yourself, this is not helpful. I've thought of this a million times before. There's nothing I can do right now to work on this. So I need to just let it go and shift my attention to something else. Something where, by paying attention to it, your body and brain will gear up to support that better sensation. Perhaps paying attention to the breathing, the way your body expands and releases, the belly rocking forward and back. By paying attention to that, you'll get calmer, more comfortable, perhaps go to sleep more easily, and if you can't sleep, at least you'll be doing some healthy attentional absorption meditation that'll help you be more fully in every moment. So again, remember, attention is enhanced processing. Our body and minds gear up to support and enhance what we attend to. Pay attention to something if you can improve the situation, but if you can't, it's better to say to yourself, there's nothing I can do about that right now. Paying attention to it will only harm me more, will only make me sicker. I need to let that go and focus on something that's better for me. If that's at night, it might be the warmth of your body, the comfort of the sheets. If it's at work, it's focusing on your job, your duties, because that's grounding you in the moment, and that's healthier for you, mentally and physically. What happens if you wake up in the middle of the night with a nightmare? At first, that nightmare perhaps is like a terror. It pulls you away. It's a flashback. You think you might be somewhere else. At some point, you have to say, whoa, that's just a dream. This is real. That's just something that's coming from my mind. I'm safe. I'm comfortable here in this situation. This is safe. That's just something I'm creating in my mind. Let that go. Focus on what's really here. The more you focus on that, the more you'll stay activated and distressed. If that's helpful, by all means do it. But if it's not helpful, let it go. Come into the moment and focus on something that's soothing and calming, saying to yourself, that was then, this is now. That's something I'm just creating with my mind right now, a memory, a thought. This is what's real. What I see, what I hear right here, right now, and the soothing comfort of my breath, the warmth of the body. Those thoughts can be out there in the distance. I don't need to pay attention to them. I need to pay attention to what's right here, right now. Okay, so shifting your attention is a very powerful skill that will help you a lot. Let's talk about different types of attention. That might help as well. There are various states of mind, states of attention. In EEG, you put electrodes on the brain and measure the electrical activity. They go from slow waves to progressively faster waves. You measure them in hertz. There's very slow delta waves, a little faster theta waves, alpha, and finally beta, very high wave frequencies. This is along a continuum. Everybody has all these, but they lie along a continuum. A healthy person can shift back and forth between these. An unhealthy person gets stuck in one or the other of these. In terms of effort, delta is very low effort, almost none at all. I should probably say that delta is essentially no conscious, no mental effort at all. Theta is low, alpha is minimal, and then beta is a lot, maximum focus and effort. At first, when you're doing some attentional absorption meditation, you might have to apply real focused beta effort. After a while, you can relax that and be connected with the environment with lower alpha effort. Intent. If you're trying to focus on one thing, that's from the top down, we call it, from your brain to the world. Beta is very top down, focused intent, whereas alpha is more receptive attention. Theta is more daydreaming. And delta is whatever happens. In terms of focus, this is very high focus. This is very low focus. In terms of vigilance, being aware of what's around me, beta is very high vigilance. And as you get down to theta, delta, what I'd like us to do is an exercise where we become aware of what we're paying attention to. So you may have some sheets in front of you, some homework sheets. Otherwise, you can just write out answers to some of these questions. For example, how much time do you spend fully engaged in every moment without worry about what just happened in the past, what recently just happened or distantly just happened, or what may happen in the future? How often, what percent of the time are you able to be fully and comfortably engaged in the moment without worry about the past or worry about the future? Let's take a moment and think about that. And let me also add, without judging or reacting to what's happening now. Comfortably, enjoyably engaged in the moment. What percent of your day? And what are you doing the rest of the time? That time when you're not fully, comfortably engaged in what's happening in the moment, what is happening? Where is your attention? What's going on that takes you away from being able to be in this fully engaged, enjoyable state? And how much time would it be useful, do you believe, to be fully engaged in the moment without judging it or reacting to what's going on in some negative way, without being pulled into the past, without worrying about the future? What percent of the day do you think would be useful to be fully present of your waking time? Or you might add sleep into that too, because I know a lot of people who are afraid to go to sleep. They're afraid because they think they have to worry about what's going to be coming. If they worry about it, somehow that protects them. It's like crossing the street. If I worry about being hit by a car, then somehow that's going to make me safer. But actually, the more your head is filled with worry, the less you'll be able to be aware of the cars around you. Of course, you have to be aware of traffic. The more you allow yourself to be totally present in the moment, without worry about the future or the past, the more your awareness spreads out, the safer you can be. And of course, we have to sometimes worry about the future. We have to plan, what are we going to do today? We have to plan, for the next hour I'll be doing this type of work. This is an important part of our life. But if at every moment you're worried about the next minute and the next minute, the next day and the next moment, you aren't going to be able to do very good work in this moment. When you're with someone you love and care for, to be worried about them leaving you in the next moment or you leaving them, you're almost guaranteeing that things are not going to work out well between you. It's okay to have these thoughts and put things in context, but you need to give it a rest as well and enjoy this interaction, this moment to some extent. So what percent of the time is it useful to be planning and reflecting of the past, planning on the future, versus relaxing that and just engaging in what you're doing in the moment? Given that you believe there's some extent to which you should be fully engaged in the moment, what do you need to do to allow yourself to be fully engaged in that moment? So what are some things in your life, in the past, or perhaps even in the present, or thinking of what might help you to do differently in the future, that you can do differently to help you in this way? But starting with the past, what has been useful to bring you fully engaged and comfortably engaged in this very moment? What activities have you done where you felt that you really were present, that were healthy activities, that's a skill that you could use or develop or somehow bring into your life, that if you did every day, it would help you be more happy, more present, improve your quality of life? And how can you start implementing that in your life? And what's blocking you from using these things, from doing these activities? What's preventing you from engaging in these? And how can you overcome those blocks, those obstacles? You know, in my experience, personally and clinically, if you look at things like PTSD, depression, pain, maybe post-concussive symptoms following a traumatic brain injury, anxiety, what all these things have in common is distraction from the moment. All these things take you away from being in the moment. PTSD is a great example. The flashbacks to the past. The worry about being in a situation that you might not react well in, a crowd, a relationship, a work situation. Negative feelings. All these things take you away from being comfortably present in the moment. PTSD is a great example. The flashbacks that happen, nightmare that wakes one up, and for a while you think you're back there. This is something that we're generating with our mind because our brains were conditioned to those intense experiences of the past. We need to train our brain, and we can do it, but it takes effort. We need to train our brain to be able to say, that was then, the more I pay attention to that, the more I'm keeping this alive. I have to stop enhancing that, stop paying attention to that, let it go, and pay attention to what's right in front of me, right here, right now. Every time you disengage from an intrusive thought or feeling, bring your attention into the moment and focus on what you see, hear, and feel. you're that much stronger and have that many fewer intrusive thoughts and feelings. But you have to trust that this moment is an okay place to be. Now in the past, maybe the moment wasn't an okay place to be. Maybe for a year or two or however many of your life, that was not a safe place to be. But you have to find a place now that you can trust. Perhaps right now sitting in this room or in your own bedroom, wherever you can go. Say, for this next 10 minutes, I'm going to trust that this is an okay place to be. It's okay to let go of thoughts, let go of vigilance, let go of worry, and to be totally present and trust what I'm seeing, what I'm hearing, what I'm feeling is okay. It's real, it's my core, it's who I am, it's what I am. And these thoughts and feelings are just noise from the past or worry about the future that I no longer need to maintain. So take another minute and write down where it would be safe for you and when it would be safe for you to practice being in the moment with what's truly your core. What you see, what you hear, what you feel, these things are always right here, real. You can trust these things. And when these intrusive thoughts and feelings come, you can notice those. That's not real. That's just a thought. That's just a feeling. I can let that go and come back to what's at my true core, what's really here, what's my basis. For our final exercise in helping us practice being fully engaged in each moment, sitting comfortably in your chair, as comfortably as you're able to get, hands on your lower abdomen, eyes open and downward. Just take stock of what you see, what you hear, and the sensations coming to your skin. You can also notice what makes it difficult to pay attention to the moment. Notice your distractions, the thoughts that you generate in your mind, the discomfort in your body. All these are there together. But you can choose what to pay attention to. And what you pay attention to, you will enhance, and your body and mind will become more like that. Begin by absorbing yourself in what you see. Notice every sensation of what you see. The colors, the texture, the patterns. And if it helps, then pay attention to what you're seeing for at least 5 breaths. Breathing in what you see till the top of the breath you're totally filled with this visual sensation. And then pouring your breath out to what you see. Until at the bottom of your breath, all that remains is that visual sensation. And then pay attention to what you hear. Make one sound, one external sound. And again, link it with the breath. Count at least 5 times that you're breathing that in. Till at the top of the breath, all that remains is that sound filling you. And then give your breath away to that sound until at the bottom of the breath, all that remains is that sound. And then pick one comfortable sensation. There's many competing sensations for your attention. Select one that's soothing and relaxing and comforting, and absorb yourself in that sensation. And continue to make these cycles. One thing you see for 5 breaths, one thing you hear for 5 breaths, one thing you feel for 5 breaths. If your mind is so noisy, you continue to generate so much noise that it's hard for you to break through and pay attention, then bring it down to perhaps 3 breaths for each of those sensations. If it becomes easy and you can make several of these cycles, then go up to 6, then 7, etc. When you notice you're mostly paying attention to the words you're creating in your mind, then go immediately to the sound and let the sounds around you replace those internal words that you're creating. When you find that you're focusing mostly on internal images in your mind, then immediately go to what you're seeing and fill yourself instead with the visual sensation that's real, that's right here. And when you feel that you're focusing mostly on discomfort or negative feelings, then immediately fill yourself with the comfortable sensation that's also right here. And every time you let go of this habit tendency to be pulled away from the moment, every time you bring yourself back to this moment, you get that much stronger. You improve your quality of life just that much more. when you practice these techniques every day, every morning and every evening, even just for 10 minutes, you'll find that the rest of your day, you're able to use that skill. Just like if you go out running a couple miles in the morning, the rest of the day you feel more invigorated, more alive, more healthy. By practicing this attentional absorption exercise, you'll have better tendencies, better ability to stay fully present, fully engaged in everything you're doing, with less distraction from intrusive thoughts and feelings.